Good morning from Seaworld Orlando. One of the perks of being a pass holder, they give you free tours sometimes. This one is for the rescue tour. We met over at the Sky Tower. It's actually over there behind the trees. We're going behind the scenes. They say this is the active area, so everything that we're going to be seeing is something that nobody really gets to see other than team members. As part of the Halloween area, they are still taking Halloween stuff down, believe it or not, and that was a week ago. Okay. There's our tour guide.
Can anyone tell me how many animals SeaWorld has rescued since we first opened our first park in the 60s? It's over 39,000.
Over 39,000 animals have been rescued by SeaWorld.
And so I did the math back when it was 36,500, and that's one animal we've been able to rescue. We haven't been open 100 years. We're doing more than one animal every single day over all the three parks, city different parks. But that's all because of people like you. So I always like to start this by saying a big thank you for coming. We're doing this tour. I know some of you got very heavily discounted since it's a pass holder. We still are helping to fund our rescue efforts. You'll hear me talk about Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commissioner, FWC. They are our state government in charge of a lot of the rescue. They do give us a lot of the parameters, but you give us most of the funding. Okay. All right. So I mentioned a few boats are gone right now. There's usually one right here. We have perimeter boat. Preface, you see a bird that is rescued. Rescue more birds than any other animal. If you think about it, it makes no sense because humans see birds every day. Most of the time, right? You don't usually see sea turtles and manatees and dolphins every day. Yes, definitely not on land. Otherwise, that would be a that would be a good sign, right? This, yeah, you'll see some of our old helicopters.
This is visibility. It shows us
if you were to see manatee, that's going to be my go-to example for this because, like I said, we're going to see manatees at the end, and they're kind of our specialty. The other two parks don't see manatees, so that's kind of our thing here in Florida. If you were to see a hurt manatee, you would call FWC's phone number, and they might know of a group you've never heard of before that can help that animal quicker. We are the largest critical care facility for manatees in the region, so a lot of times we're involved in some step along the way. But if there's another group that's closer that can get to that animal faster, they'll call that group ahead of us, okay? If they call us, the boat that's normally right here goes out first. They follow your directions to that animal as best as they can, and they find that animal and keep watch around that animal so we don't lose it, because even injured animals can't move on. So while we're walking, I'll kind of explain when we're done. We have a manatee rescue boat, which is also done. So my guess, manatee rescue, I have no idea what this boat's doing. But our manatee rescue boat has two unique things about it. One is the motor's going to be all the way in front, so that our equipment has plenty of room and our team has plenty of room to jump. Two, it has a back wall that actually slide right off, so that we can pull the manatee onto the boat. Manatees can be quite heavy, and we don't have a fully system on the boat that would allow us to lift it over that wall. So we took the wall off and just pull the manatees onto the boat. We'll see our dolphin rescue boat just a couple minutes ago. This is first. We're going to gather on these yellow lines. We're out of the way when you pass it. Talk about this here. It could be. Think more likely would be dolphins, beluga whales, anything like that. But it could be for manatees, sure. So any marine mammal could potentially travel on Manatees. This is, as the sign says, a marine mammal transport unit. This is retired. We don't have windows normally. You're going to float with water. Put it down so you all could see inside. This question. They could definitely fit, but we probably wouldn't put them in there because sharks need a little extra care while moving them because their water has to be a little more specific for them to breathe. This would be filled with just regular fresh water because the mammals in here, they breathe air. So it's not a big deal for them to just sit in regular fresh water. Even if they live in salt water, they're okay just traveling in fresh. Sharks, it would depend on the type of shark, and then you'd have to have all the right bacteria and nutrients and stuff in the water.
So this is retired?
This is retired, yep. We have other ones we use instead. So this is just for everyone to look at, but he used to be used.
It would used to have a window.
Nope. This window that helps us to see him, we did this because we're not using it. So normally it would be solid like that side, solid.
How would the water?
Because what it is, there's no wall. So you see this has the wall. So what we do is we're going to use one of these. We have bigger sizes, smaller sizes, you name it. We'll have stretchers built for the different animals, and we'll use our cranes to lift the animal up in the stretcher and lower them in here so they're hanging from the metal bars, kind of like a little hammock. We'll use these chains to adjust the angle. Some animals like to have their head elevated or their tail elevated, so we want them to be as comfortable as possible. We'll fill it up about halfway or so depending on the animal. We want them to be able to float comfortably so they're not just putting all their weight on their stomach for the whole ride. They're not used to our gravity the same way we are, right? They're usually submerged, right? But we don't fully submerge them in here because we want them to easily be able to come up for that air. If it's one of our animals, we'll have a familiar face like a trainer going with them. If it's a rescue, it would be a rescue team member or a veterinarian going with them, just making sure that they're doing okay. This is going to go on a truck, typically to the airport, and they fly to their next destination. Because they don't like traffic, we don't like traffic, right? We want to make it as easy as them.
How is it that the animals can fly, but you can't?
Did you still have a question?
Oh yeah, okay, so why do you paint it blue? Because what if the animals do start swimming and then what if they never walk?
Nope, so good question. Although I don't know why we painted blue. It's just a color we use a lot. But the same thing with the Manatee. It's got the motor towards the front or the center, so it's not in the way of our equipment. We're going to do the same thing when we do the Manatees where we release a net and then circle around the animal to pull them closer. But the dolphin's not going to ride on the boat. Certain species of dolphins are going to be much too large to fit on the boat, and we have it kind of set up for that sort of least possible scenario, just in case we want to be ready for those larger animals. So we'll have a mat that's pulled behind the boat, so they're floating kind of comfortably, but they're not all the way on board until we get to land. In which case, you can imagine we're not going to drive a boat across a highway with an animal on it, right? So we have this ambulance for that. This is one of them. They're going to have padding on the floor for their comfort, and we're going to sprayers to keep their skin nice and hydrated. Animal version of the first aid kit, and our rescue team and veterinary teams are on call 24/7 to help out these animals whenever we need them. Any question?
I was asking what is that?
Oh, well, there you go. I covered. I'm like a mind
That's why
reader.
your hand slowly went down.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Right. So any questions so far? All right. We're gonna kind of behind the yellow line, just because they are setting up those pools right now. The reason they're setting them up, even though we don't have any turtles yet, is most every year around Thanksgiving is when we can expect to get some turtles in. And the reason for that is because up in the Northeast, the weather can change very quickly from warm and cozy for turtles to cold and not so cozy for turtles. Sea turtles are reptiles, which means that they rely on their surroundings for a lot of their heat. And so when the weather changes that quickly, it can make it hard for them to get out of there in time because they experience symptoms of both hypothermia and frostbite. It's called cold stun. So because of the hypothermia, they're going to slow down, which makes it harder to get out of that cold water to the warm water. They're not eating, or it's harder to get their food, so that just kind of adds to everything. And like frostbite, they can lose bits of their flippers, their tissue, just like we can lose fingers or toes. So it's not a fun time. They can even get pneumonia as a side effect. So they get so many turtles up there that they kind of fill up, and they'll send some of the extras down to us and other facilities to take care of them. So this building we're passing right now is part of our aquarium quarantine. You wouldn't find a sea lion or a dolphin over there. Just watch your step. There's a little hole right there. You wouldn't find sea lions or dolphins or seals or anything like that breathes air, but you would find sharks, rays, maybe bony fish in there. It's kind of like our fish new kid orientation mixed with regular, medical quarantines. We're gonna scoot up this way. So what I mean is if we have a sick animal or an animal that's new to us that could potentially be sick and we just don't see any symptoms right away, we're going to put them in there for a minimum of 30 days. If they're new to us from another facility or new to life, it also acts as a new kid orientation because we're teaching them how they're fed, what they're fed, how they are handled or not handled. So when they go on exhibit, they're not totally confused and the other animals are one-upping them. So this first window, and I'll kind of scoot down because I know we've got a big group, but the first window we're passing is where we do our water testing. Our water quality team is super underrated. We have someone from the team on site 24/7 to make sure that all of our habitats are healthy for those animals. There's different systems, some are automated, some are manual, some have backup generators, so there's a lot of different prioritizing based on what kind of animals living there and how their habitat affects them. But if you've ever had to test a fishing tank or fish tank at home, you test a lot of the same things, but they have to have people around the clock because certain parameters have to be tested as often as every 3 hours. So scooting up, you'll see a lot of research materials for all of the species that live here and even species that could come as rescues. And as we get further down the building, you'll see a lot of machinery and equipment that could be found in a human hospital or lab clinic because they test a lot of the same things. Examples being blood, urine. Yes, I have seen our dolphins pee into cups. Blowhole cultures. So that might not seem like a human thing, but a lot of us have had our nose swabbed at one point in our life for different respiratory tests. Our animals that don't have traditional noses, a lot of them have blowholes, and we can ask them to blow out of that blowhole into a petri dish and culture that instead. That last window, you can see a door through there that is a full functioning pharmacy, so I'll keep scooting down. But if any of you have ever tried to give medicine to a dog or a cat, you can imagine that our dolphins and killer whales and beluga whales and all of them don't eat peanut butter or cheese or any of the stuff the dogs like, right? But a lot of them will swallow fish whole. So if that's the case, we can put the medicine inside the gill slit of the fish and they swallow the fish without even, caring that they had medicine in it. I'll scoot down a little bit, and any shorter folks are welcome to stand on this little booth. This is our veterinary hospital, so this is where the magic happens, and I'll kind of keep scooting because I know we've got a big group that wants to see, but definitely take your time and take some pictures. So anything from a routine checkup on one of our animals to an emergency surgery on a rescue animal could happen inside this room. We have it set up right now with one of our smaller tables, but we have a much larger table for larger patients. We can set up kiddie pools for turtles or stingrays. We have big and small x-ray machines, ultrasound machines. A lot of our equipment has wheels or handles or other ways of making it portable so we can take them to the poolside of some of our larger animals. If there's a way to do the checkup in the animal's habitat, we'll do that because it's going to be more comfortable than them moving here to go to the doctor. We'll just bring the doctor to that. Now it depends on the animal, it depends on the procedure. If you're going to do a teeth cleaning on an otter, they're probably going to come here with their handlers. If you're going to do a tooth cleaning on a beluga whale, we just ask them to open their mouth and we have a specialized water pick. So certain things that you would think would be really easy on one animal are not as easy on another, and so they don't all have to come here for everything. A lot of stuff we can do right on habitat, and I'm going to kind of loop us around this way so more of you can see. But that includes, the blood and urine and blowhole samples I was talking about. We're able to do those at habitat at the surface of the water, and we're able to get those samples on a regular basis because those animals can't tell us if they're sick. So we try to do it as often as possible to make sure that we're ahead of the game. And because we do it on a regular basis, if there's ever a day that the animal does not want us to touch that particular part of their body or doesn't want to participate, that's fine, because odds are the last time we did it, everything looked fine and healthy, and it's not an emergency. We can check back tomorrow or next week or whenever that animal wants to participate. So it does become voluntary for them, but whenever we do get those numbers and those samples, we can share that information with other facilities, other rescues, other research groups, and so we're all kind of networking together, not just for physically rescuing the animal, but also for conservation efforts and understanding the health of the population as well. In here is some of our bird rehab, so it kind of stretches out back that way. In this particular habitat, we had 2 sandhill cranes. I don't know if they're both still in there. I see one kind of in the back. If you're not from Florida, sandhill cranes are pretty common. They're very tall, like as tall as some of the children in here, even taller than a few of them. And they just walk into the road, and a lot of times they get hit. We have one in there that had a broken beak, and it was kind of questionable whether it was going to be released or not, but it has started growing the beak, and they're making sure that it's regrowing in a nice, functional, proper way so that it will be released in the future. Yes, you have a question?
So at my school, there's actually a male and a female sandhill crane.
Yeah.
And then they also had a little baby.
Oh, cute.
The little baby kind of looks like a little duck that you get in like those like market places.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then once they fully grow, they're like
And a turtle.
it's just like
There's a turtle.
Yeah, we have some gopher tortoises in here. I don't know if they're visible right now. They were kind of shy this morning, but these are some of the yards that we put them in to get a little sunlight. 'Cause like I said, for reptiles, it's very important that they get that warm environment or have access to a warm environment. Just make sure you're not climbing on the fence, okay? I don't want anyone falling in and hurting themselves. But yeah, so the turtles might be going in for shade now that it's a little sunnier out. But we give them the option, sunshine or shade. So I don't know all the tortoises that are in there right now, but I know one of them had a mouth injury. We're gonna keep to my left-hand side, your right-hand side, so our wonderful golf cart
Joshua.
kind of go past us.
Yeah.
Well, okay. We're gonna both sides. We're all gonna gather here in the shade for a minute. Let everyone go by. Small fish.
What is in there? What's in there?
Probably
We're gonna keep to your left-hand side because there are golf carts that pass this pathway to feed the manatees, and the manatees do get fed about every other hour during the day. So we just have a pretty good chance of a golf cart driving by. We want to make sure we give them plenty of room. Just a little bit of a blind corner up there. You might have seen the really cute picture up on that building of some baby manatees getting bottle fed. If you've been to our main habitat, so not necessarily the hospital, but the part in front of it that's always open, that is full of orphaned manatees. So they are healthy at this point. When they came in, a lot of them were malnourished from being away from mom for too long and not getting enough of that milk. So we do bottle feed them typically every 3 hours when they first get in. So there will be a rescue team shift that ends around midnight and one that starts at 3. Yeah. So, okay, so yes, so he asked if there are manatees that we haven't found. Of course, there are healthy manatees out there that we don't ever have to rescue, but every once in a while, manatees are really good at playing hide and seek, basically. So think about it, if you were a manatee that just got hit by a boat and another boat is coming near you, even if, you know, it's the good guys, you don't know the difference. So every once in a while, we get a manatee that kind of swims away from us or hides from us because they don't realize that we're there trying to help them. So it can take a couple tries to get that animal. But we don't really give up. We do go back, and anytime we get a phone call that someone has spotted that animal, we'll go back with that new information and try to find it. The goal is to find them as quickly as possible because sometimes what can happen is their wounds try to heal on their own but don't heal very properly. Did you have a question? Okay.
how much calories are in whales'
I can tell you that that is a lot of calories. I can only imagine that whales would have, well, dolphins are whales, but like bigger whales would have more calories.
More.
Yeah. Alright. So our hospital is upstairs. If you don't want to go up there, if you want to flip-flop or anything like that, that's up to you. What I can do is give some little information down there, and then if anyone would like to stick around and try to go up there, I have just a couple minutes. I can walk a few people up there. But since not everyone is great on stairs today, and we've got lots of wheels today, I'll kind of do a little summary here. This is part of our hospital, so some of the pools are back there, especially if we get a brand new manatee, they're going to get their checkups over there. Once they're kind of stable, we know what's going on, they can move over here where we have one of those false bottom floors that just kind of lifts up, so we're able to do a checkup on that manatee or work on them without, having to swim around the pool after them, right? Yeah? How many of you were wanting to go upstairs or fine going upstairs? No? Okay. Well, I just want to make sure I'm not like dragging anybody up there that's like, I really don't want to do this because the rest of the park is that way. So it'd be a good spot if anyone wanted to leave. Okay, if everyone's fine, you can park the strollers pretty much anywhere over here. It's actually roped off right now, so no one's going to mess with that. And we're going to head up the stairs.
Papa Snorters.
About that more on my last tour with this one. But that floor is slotted like a big spaghetti strainer. So it's set to basically lift up out of the water with the manatees on it. So you can walk out to the animal you need to work on and just do it on land. We're done, we can lower them back in. You might have noticed that hospital that we looked at might be a little small for some of our baby whales. That's okay.
There's a manatee right over there. I don't know how well it'll show up with the reflection.
One just put their snout out of the water.
Yeah? Well, they can hold their breath about 20 minutes, but they do have to come up for air at some point, right? They're all perched. Yes. Yeah. Oh, big cuts mostly. So, it's a good question. So, how do we know? We don't have a team, or we don't have a big enough team everywhere all the time, right? So, someone like you would see a manatee, usually with a big cut on it, or the cut on the boat, or if you saw one that's kind of
I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but you can see where some of these manatees have been hit by boats. There's some pretty bad scratches and cuts on their back. It's kind of sad.
Which is our graduation pool. So that's why it's a bit deeper and darker. It doesn't have that false bottom floor because they don't need quite as many checkups. We are able to do a final workup on them as necessary, but that would just require a little more effort since we don't have that false bottom floor. Might have to lower the water level for that, and we can totally do that. But our goal is for them to go out. So we'll call Florida Fish and Wildlife. We'll let them know which manatees are doing better, and they'll look over their history. They have to be at least 600 pounds, which is why we have so many little ones down there, is it takes a couple years for them to get to 600 pounds when they only eat plants. So once they're 600 pounds, that's like the first stop, right? First check mark on their list. But they're going to look at whether they've been rescued before, why, and how many times. If this manatee wanders into cold water every single winter and gets cold stress, that's a bad sign. They're probably going to get rehomed. If it's, you know, a storm drain one day or 1 year and a boat strike another year, those are totally unrelated. They'll probably get a few more tries. But it's up to the government to make that decision, and we're kind of just the middleman. Yeah, so we microchip them. We also have a we first release them, and that'll page this out. It is designed like an ice collar, so we're going to put anything if they break off. It's about restoration right now. We have an idea where they
Alright, so there you have it. The Seaworld Orlando rehabilitation tour. It's actually kind of interesting. You learn a lot. You see all the things that SeaWorld does to help. It's kind of nice. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.